Hey guys, Xavier Kelly. Welcome to my new podcast. It's called Up Next. I'm here with Anthony Johnson, a close friend, best friend, honestly, right here, and
Hope so.
about to dive deep into him as a creator.
Yeah.
So, Anthony, can you give us like a little just of like who you are and kind of what you've been working on?
Yeah. So, well, I call myself a filmmaker first. So I make films on the side when I can, raise up the money, raise up the budget. Small budget independent films right now, and I write the script, I help produce them, and I direct them. The main, I guess, avenue out of that I want to pursue is directing. So I would call myself a filmmaker, film director, but I love writing. So that's like my main identity. But I'm a former athlete, so I can't really escape that side of my life. I'm a coach. I personally train young athletes, football players and softball players, multiple sports, and speed and agility, also sport-specific training. So I'm a coach, and now I'm also teaching at a high school. I'm teaching a film class at a high school here in Dallas. So I don't know, man. I'm a man that wears many hats. But the main one I wear is film, the filmmaker, and I guess really a storyteller.
Yeah. So going to storytelling, so I know kind of why you got into filming, but like what drove you to even start getting into filming? I know this wasn't like something that you just out of the blue just came up with. So how did you even get to even going down this career path?
Yeah. So and like I said, and like you just said, I've not always pursued filmmaking as a career goal. I've always been an athlete and a jock, I guess if you want to say that. But along with that, I've always also been a nerd and loved reading, and I think that was ingrained in me from my mom. She always gave us books and she's very excited about reading, so that always kind of carried over into us. And my dad was the athlete; he was a football coach, still is. So that's where that side came from. But to answer the question, in second grade, I remember it vividly, is when my brother and I, who's a year younger than me, were very close. We had, I think, a joint birthday party, or maybe it was just his birthday party, I don't know, but we were really into Star Wars, and we had, it just kind of like fate aligned, and we were in Star Wars. He was gonna have like 12 buddies over, like his whole class. We lived in a small town at the time, and then the same time we got a camcorder, like a home recorder, and so it all kind of lined up, and we were like, dude, let's just make a little Star Wars movie. And we had a bunch of lightsabers, and we did, and it was horrible. We called it Star Wars Junior, and we played like we were the children, like the next lineage and the next generation of the original Star Wars characters, Luke, Leia, and Han, which is funny that's what they're doing now. But we were ahead of the curve on that. But yeah, and then we made 3 of those. Like that one went really well. Our buddies loved it, and then we got together and did it then. And so that was kind of the origins, man. And like as I grew up, I can think back. Like I always had friends. If it wasn't us with a camera, like the next time we moved in, when like basically from like 4th to 6th grade, I had a buddy named Michael Montgomery who always had a camera, and we would just after school always go over to his house or my house and make stupid stuff. Like we always had a camera. I don't know why. It's so weird now I think about it, going back. But we always had a camera as little kids, and we were just making stupid stuff like all the time. And then in high school, my brother and I would make our own little short movies that were comedic. We did like a Pirates of the Caribbean comedy, like parable. What am I trying to say? Parody.
Yeah.
It's called Scurvy.
Scurvy.
Yeah. So, and then we did a trilogy called Brodius, which was like imagine Gladiator and 300 combined, with just cheap budget. And the funny thing is, we'd make them for ourselves in Facebook, for our family. But my mom would take them to school, because she's a teacher as well, and she taught at our school, and she would show them to all her kids, right, and not tell us. So, because she was just so proud, she's just a proud mom, and so we'd be walking the halls and be like, stop by a stranger, classmate, they'd be like, hey man, I saw your movie, Brodius, that was hilarious. You're like, what the, how did you see it? My mom, yeah. So that's where it started. I was an artist growing up, so I always tried to be creative, and I loved reading, like I said, so that was my avenue. I got into guitar for a while. I don't know, I've always had a creative side. I've sought it. It wasn't until like my senior year of high school when I finally my dad actually posed the question to me when I was decided what college to go to. He was like, dude, you just need to decide what you want to do, and I was like, man, I don't know, I have so many options. And he's like, well, what if you had the perfect day ever? You woke up and it's just the best day ever, no complaints, and you went to bed happy. What did you do that day? And I thought about it, and I was like, honestly, man, the most fun and the best days I have are when I wake up and make movies with Frazier. My brother, and he was like, all right, well, that's what you need to be pursuing. And so, I don't know, it seems so simple, but that was like a light bulb in my head, and I was like, yeah, that's what I need to be pursuing. So ever since then, I went to film school, and that's been the origin of it.
The origin of everything.
Yeah.
So I know one thing, you didn't touch on it much right now, but I know just from knowing you for as long as I've known you that your mom has played a really important role. If I'm right, your mom used to actually film some of them. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for going from that side, like what people have really inspired you to kind of push you down this path and kind of because it is a lonely path. Sometimes you're very isolated when you're building everything, you're creating anything in a solo, and sometimes you have to push projects alone without any help. So what kind of helped you get to that point?
Oh, well, I mean, she'd been the biggest, especially in regards to like the loneliness side of it, like, or just feeling like you're going at it alone. She's been a huge positive influence. My dad always ingrained, I mean, I have to say my dad for a lot of reasons, but most predominantly just because he ingrained a work ethic in me and my brother and our whole family really, but would never let us be lazy. We always had to be doing something, whether, whatever it was for. And so he ingrained, I'm very thankful for the work ethic he put inside me and instilled in me. But my mom, yeah, I mean, like you said, she loves us so much. Like she's like the most sacrificial woman I know. Like she will do anything for us to help us like follow our dreams, right? And she, even if that means, taking skin off her own back, like, she actually loved, she was always our camera woman, usually. The way we filmed it, it was me and my brother only. So he would film my scenes and I would film his scenes. So we were always just the cameraman, but then like, God forbid, if we had a scene where both of us were in it, we either had to find a way to set the camera up and walk in front of it, or my mom would film it. And so she was always that third cameraman that we always needed. But she loved that stuff. But yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you were like, I think pursuing any kind of crazy creative dream, you're gonna have periods of like where you're the only one. It seems like you're the only one going after it, and it's like a lonely road, like you said. And so, I mean, you need family, you need friends, you need close colleagues to help you get through those moments. And my mom was a big one. You were a big one for me in those, instilling me, getting me through those moments. I don't know. I've been lucky and been blessed to have a good core group of like friends to help me through those times. Get me through there.
And you've been actually, I don't know, most people don't know, like, you've actually raised money and actually completed a couple different films already, too, as well. You have Silver Hollow, you have Expired, and, like, even though you might not so much think they're the best part of your work, but at the time they were, I think most people would agree they were pretty good, especially on the budget you had. And you just recently raised money for, 2 more films. So you have Garden that's coming to the very end of its development, which will be putting out a little bit, and then you raise money for Borders. Like, can you like walk us through like kind of like the steps it took you to actually bring these films to life, and like all the tell? Because most people think it's just you write the script, you shoot it, you edit it. Like, what's the whole process to get through there?
Yeah, I mean, that's the highlights of it. Yeah, so I wrote all those scripts. Once you have a script, okay, once you have an idea, you got it. Like, that's a whole. We could talk a lot about the steps to even get it to script form once you have an idea. But the easiest thing to do, what I would get caught up in the past, is like, it would just be an idea. And it's like the best thing to do in that stage of the film or in that stage of the game is just get it out on paper in whatever form that is. Like, I say, throw it up on paper. Like, literally just throw up on the paper or on the keyboard. Really, just get it out of your head, because that's the only way. Yeah, I mean. But that's the only way to really get things rolling. And there's other things we can go into detail later if you want to like get it from that's origin to a script. But once you have the script, usually how I do it, I mean, you can go about it any way, is now I shop that script around to my close like friends and like filmmaking acquaintances, right? So like I come to you a lot, you and your girlfriend and my mom and my brother who's a writer as well. Like, I come to people that I know, it's like that are gonna give me good critiques. Stuff that I need to hear about the story to build that up. But at the same time too, while I'm doing that, I'm also kind of putting feelers out to like see who's interested in a way that would like, hey, I want to get on this, like I want to get on this ship, right? Because it's more like, hey, I'm presenting you a ship that's about to set sail. Not only am I asking for your opinion on that ship and how it's built, but like, do you also want to get on and kind of help me sail this thing? And so it's kind of a recruitment process.
Oh, so you recruit all the way through the development process of it.
Basically.
So you kind of, at the end, you don't have to actually have a stage for recruitment, because you've already kind of done that by who has been interested based off people you know or people that you connect with over it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that process starts there. And then like, yeah, I mean, really, especially at this stage where I'm at, is doing it as an independent filmmaker, like all that kind of gets thrown together, because like the next thing would be then like, kind of sorting out a budget, but I would say at the same time I'm also going back through the script and finding out what props I'm going to need and like how much that's going to cost, and then location scouting and figuring out where I want to film it and how and on what equipment. And then at the same time I'm always still recruiting people, to see who wants to be on, and so it all kind of goes hand in hand, and then kind of above all that, going back to the budget thing, it's like, okay, how much money do we need? How can we get that? Can I save up that, or do I need to raise this money and start asking for help? And that's usually the answer is I need to raise it, because when you sit down and kind of look at the logistics of it, you're like, yeah, if I'm being realistic, I'm going to need a couple grand, and I don't have that right now just to throw, so I'm going to need to raise it and ask for money. And then there's avenues to go from there, and like you said, I've raised money. It's grown incrementally every time. So it started off with my short film Silver Hollow. It was $600. We hit our goal. Then it was Garden. We raised $1,000, and that was our goal. And then for Borders, the feature film I just did, I want to say $2,000, but I want to really feel like when it's all said and done, it's going to end up being around $2,500 that I spent on the film. So it's kind of cool to see the progression of that. And most of that was raised and saved and donated, and to help produce the film. So that's usually that next step. And then, from there, look, all that's fun to me. That's why I like directing. Like, it's fun to raise a budget, find out how I'm going to spend it, try to stick to it, and I don't know if I'm good at it. I'm probably not that good. I think I'm somewhat good at it. Obviously there's always room for improvement, but I don't know if that answered the question.
You kind of answered the question with part, because I understand, because just being on the other side of constructing the film together and all the pieces that go from there, and like I know like the whole part of like setting expectations on when films are going to be completed, how like what time frames like that. How do you set those in a way where you don't get on yourself too much? I know it's something you recently got into, because of the process of, you realize sometimes creating the film, sometimes you take the same amount of process or more than process of actually getting it finished with everything on there, getting the soundtracks, getting it covered, everything. How do you deal with that?
Well, first of all, anybody watching that's interested in film, or listening, especially at this level as an independent filmmaker, you're doing it on your own or whatever, low budget, just destroy your expectations as far as that. It's really hard to be, especially if you have other jobs or another job, and so it's really hard to set these expectations that you would think would be realistic for a film, and it ends up not being so. And that's something I've had to go through, especially recently, like you said. For example, the hardest part is the post-production, and not hard in the sense that effort. It's just time consuming. Really, to get good work done editing, you need to commit about 4 hours at a time at the least. And it just it's hard pressed to find people, especially if this isn't your full-time gig, that have 4 hours or 5 hours to give to that, especially with a fast enough computer to edit. Everything I've shot has been in 4K recently, so you're talking about moving a lot, and so you need a lot of time for that. And a prime example of that is Garden, the short film that's about to be done. We spent 5 days shooting. It's been in post-production for a year. And the ratio there, so post-production, even though that's the most planned for, production is the most planned for. I'll say this, especially after my last film, production should be the easiest part. If you've planned correctly, it should be the most fun. It is the most fun for me. The last production I just had for Borders, my feature length, was so much fun. It went so well. Not to say that nothing went wrong. It's just we were prepared enough for the things that went wrong, because that's another rule too. If you're pursuing this career, something will always go wrong on set. Get that right now. And it's probably a lesson for most things in life. If things can go wrong, something will go wrong. Doesn't mean that it's over. It's just how well do you roll with the punches, and how well can you adapt, and how well did you pre-plan for that. So production should be the easiest part. Post-production is the longest. The way I'm looking at it now, man, I want my films to be done in a quick turnaround, 6 months ideally. Who wouldn't? Because you put so much time and money into it. And especially, my biggest thing is the pressures for all the people that have helped me. And it's not even they don't really put pressure on me. It's just me imagining them putting pressure on me. It's why I deleted all my social media apps right now. Is just I was like, and I'll come back to them, but it's because I had this imagined. It was imagined, but it was an imagined pressure. It was a fake pressure I was putting on myself. Oh, these people, they're expecting it now, and it's no one was saying anything to me, And so I was stressing myself out and depressing myself that my film wasn't out. And really, the way I look at it now is you look to some authors, especially ones that were like highly informative or highly influential. Like it took them sometimes 3 to 5 years to write, you know, and it'll blow up. A guy I love, you know, an author I love, like spent 15 years to write one book. Think about that, and it changed his life though. That book changed his life. But so when I started realizing, okay, I want my films to be impactful. I want them. I do believe they're going to change my life when they get out. You know, especially my most 2 recent ones. If that's the case, I can't rush them. You know, and they're going to come out when they're going to come out, and the impact will hopefully be just the same as if it would come out 2 months ago. You know, so that's the way I'm looking at it now. Is like these. I mean, and film should be looked at like that. You know, like these are massive things you're doing. There's so many moving parts. There's so many moving cogs and gears into what makes the final product. So don't rush it. And yeah, I look at it like a novel now, and